My name is Darren, and I have a story about how a revolution in England, 100 years before the American Revolution, set the stage for our founding fathers.
I'm Melissa, and I have a story about a tradition that started from a Welsh quarry.
I'm Adri, and I'm going to tell you the story of how a twist of fate may have changed the entire outcome of world history.
Well, what do all of these things have to do with the word slate? Find out in this episode of History Bluffs. Hello and welcome to the 94th episode of History Bluffs. It's where truth is stranger than fiction. And now I want to welcome to the show, it's your host, it's Chris.
Hello. Welcome everyone to another episode of History Bluffs. Let's give it up for Adam, our tech extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you very much, Chris. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, Adam. I'm doing well tonight. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, doing good out here. Get excited to learn about Slate.
Yes, our 94th episode. Can you believe that?
I know. Oh, we've got some excitement out there in the ether. Thanks, Dogsy. We're excited too. I'll tell you what.
Yes, we are indeed. So, welcome to History Bluffs. Our 94th episode, as Adam mentioned, inspired by the word slate, and we'll get to that explanation in a second. The most important people on the show tonight are our three historians over on my side here. So let's bring them up and meet them, shall we? I'm going to welcome to the stage Darren, Melissa, and Adri.
Hello.
Yeah, look at those faces out there.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back. All right, Darren, I'm going to start with you. So our word of inspiration is slate, and we heard in the cold opening that you're going to talk about something that happened in Great Britain in the UK. I'm going to talk about slate. How about Slater, J.C. Slater, and of course the character in the show Saved by the Bell. Interestingly, one of the top 300,000 shows of all time, which doesn't sound impressive at surface level, but if you think about it, in February of 2022, there were more than 817,000 shows available on streaming and or broadcast TV just in 2022.
Wow.
So, when I say top 300,000, that's not bad relative. It's top half,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that movie, The 300,000.
The 300,000,
Yeah.
exactly. Did you ever watch, Darren? Did you ever watch Saved by the Bell?
I did, not like religiously, but I have seen the show, yes.
Well, it was based at a school, not a church, so it's not nothing religious about it.
Yeah.
So our next historian is Melissa Bailey. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right, welcome back to the show, Melissa. What's something you remember from Saved by the Bell?
Oh gosh, I gotta go with the hair. There were a lot of hairstyles in that. You had like the long curly hair, and then just the hair. I'm gonna go
Yeah, I'm personally partial to the long curly hair myself, but that's just me. And our third, last but certainly not least, Adri. Hello, Adri.
Hello.
There she is.
And Adri, do you have a Saved by the Bell memory that you might share with us?
Yeah, well, I was actually just reading about them not too long ago, and I didn't know that Zach Morris was inspired by Ferris Bueller. That character's inspired by the Ferris Bueller character.
No kidding.
I did not know that either. See,
Yeah.
we just learned something new on History Bluffs. I learned something new on History Bluffs, our 94th episode. Ladies and gentlemen that are watching, and those of you listening to the podcast, you may be wondering, why is he talking about Saved by the Bell? Well, that's how the show works, is that we have a word of inspiration. In this case, it was slate, which made me think of Slater, which made me think of J.C. Slater, after a bunch of other things, because I know, I didn't want to talk about some other things that first came to mind, because it could be what some of our historians are talking about tonight, so I didn't want to ruin any of their
Don't steal their thunder.
I did not steal their thunder. So, So I went with, one of the top 300,000 shows of all time, considered, but that's the way it works, is we have this word of inspiration, slate, in tonight's episode, and each of them are going to come up with a story and based on that word, and they're going to share with us their story tonight. And here's the thing. 2 of our historians are telling true stories, and one of them is bluffing. So, yeah.
Oh, it's the name of the show. It's going to happen.
Indeed, it is right. So, so the way it works is we're going to hear their stories in 3 different parts, in 3 rounds, and I'll explain that in a second. But we have to figure out which of them is bluffing, and I don't even know. Only Adam, our tech, knows which of our 3 historians is
That's right.
bluff.
I'm a know-it-all.
He is a know-it-all. So,
I would excel in a setting like Saved by the Bell. Which, by the way, the thing I remember most is that one dude went on to do porn. That's all I know.
What?
Stretch?
Okay.
Yeah, was it Stretch? Screech?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Screech.
Screech.
I
think him doing porn was a stretch, but
may I add something?
There you go.
Yes, go ahead, Adri. Yes,
I met him a few years back when I was doing stand-up comedy. We did a show together, and he was a very, very nice, lovely man. I just want to add that in there.
Okay. Yeah, I know he came through Daytona Beach actually several years back when he was doing stand-up. But that besides the point. So the way the show works, as I mentioned, we have 3 rounds where our historians will tell us stories, and the way the rounds work are they are broken up by time. And each consecutive round gets shorter. So first round, they're going to open up their story with 75 seconds to tell us their opening round of their story. And then we're going to go on to round 2, and that's going to have 60 seconds for each of them. And then the final conclusion round is round number 3, 45 seconds. Adam, I feel like I'm getting into the rules. Can you put up the rule card for us?
I can do the rules. Let's do it. Every show's got to have rules. We're a game show. Here's the game show rules. Tell them what they are, Chris.
Yes. I mentioned that the historians are inspired by the topic. Tonight's topic is Slate. There's 2 true stories, 1 bluff story. So the true stories are factual stories. And it may be surprising, but these are actually factual stories. The bluff story is a fictional story, a fictional premise to their story. It could have some actual facts. For example, we are on the planet Earth. That is a fact. There are humans, and some of their stories may include people that we know actually exist. It does not mean, though, that they are not bluffing. The premise, so the premise of their story is a bluff. And we ask for the audience to not come into play until the end of the show with anything that if you know that someone is blatantly bluffing, please don't debunk their story until the 3rd round. There will be, there's after each of the rounds, there's an opportunity for us to interact, and we'll ask questions of each other. And we have a comment section. You could all make comments on the side. And then at the end of the 3rd round, we'll have an opportunity before we reveal who the bluff is, that we will all be able to make guesses based on what we heard in those 3 rounds. Sound good, Adam?
That sounds good. I think it's time to roll out our big piece of equipment to help us know where we are in the show.
I think it is. And for those of you watching right above my head, you're about to see the Round Tracker 9000. There it is. Highest technology available for 47 cents. And that is basically, that helps us tell which round is full and complete. When all 3 of those dots are filled in, we know that we have a completed round.
I know it helps me.
It does. It helps me as well as the host. And you know what? I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to shut up now and hand it off to the historians. Let's get started with the show. Adam, let's jump into round number 1.
Round number 1. All right, we've left the audience waiting long enough. Let's get to the show.
All right, Darren, I'm going to bring you out first. You're going to have the first crack at it. In round number 1, you have 75 seconds to begin your story. When you see the little sundial and you hear the boom, the floor is yours.
The phrase tabula rasa can be traced back to the writings of Aristotle, who writes in his treatise De Anima of the unscribed tablet. He says, the mind is in a sense potentially whatever is thinkable, though actually it is nothing until it has thought. What it thinks must be in it, just as characters may be said to be on a writing tablet on which as yet nothing stands written. About 2,000 years ago, this idea was refined by John Locke in his essay titled Concerning Human Understanding, where he argues that the mind is a blank slate without rules for processing data, and that data is added and rules for processing are formed solely by one's sensory experiences. The presumption of a free, self-offered mind combined with an immutable human nature leads to the Lockean doctrine of natural rights. The works of John Locke directly influenced Thomas Jefferson, who even quoted him verbatim in the Declaration of Independence. But those words almost never happened because they were written by Locke when he was on the run, living in exile in Amsterdam in fear of his life.
All right. That
right.
buzzer means that we have come to the conclusion of Darren's allotted time. So it is now time to move to our other two historians to get their thoughts on Darren's opening salvo. Melissa, what'd you think of Darren's first part of his story?
You know, you mentioned there's a lot going on in terms of like quotes and philosophical things. And I liked the quote where you said, the mind is whatever is thinkable. And that, I don't know, that maybe you're showing your hand a little early. Maybe this is whatever was thinkable for you. I don't know.
So you're saying he just thought it up. He thought it up on the fly. All right. That's Melissa's take. Adri, what do you think of Darren's opening story there?
Yeah, I'm going to bounce off Melissa. And I also picked up on the words unscribed tablet, which really just sounds like a blank page he filled with whatever words he could find off of Google. So I know Darren's tactics, so I'm voting in on that.
Okay. All right. There was one other quote that he mentioned that resonated with me, and he said, the mind is a blank slate. And I remember one of my high school teachers told me that. Still not sure what they were talking about, but I'm pretty sure it was a compliment. We're going to move on now to our second historian. That is Melissa. So Melissa, you're going to come to the center square there, and when you see the sundial and you hear the boom, you have 75 seconds for your first round of your story.
All right, so this story takes you to the time of the Industrial Revolution in Northern Wales. The slate industry was a really, really big deal in this time. And it had been there since the Roman times and then really reached a peak in the 18th century all the way to the late 19th century. And one of the places that was a really big deal was Dorothea. Dorothea was one of these quarries that the name itself roughly translates to God's gift to the valley. It opened in the 1820s and was one of the first quarries to utilize railroads to transport the slate. And eventually, ownership changed hands to a group of quarrymen led by a man named Bryn Davies. Davies was known for running a tight ship, so to speak. So like he was super, super meticulous. And the crew actually lived close by. And there was a community that kind of built up in the area called Talusarn. Talusarn. There we go. And it was a small community. And in this community, the quarrymen had to get up super early. They had to be at their shift as early as 3 a.m. And that's where a local tradition begins.
Wow on the timing. I'm giving you a wow on the timing because you literally said it right to the very second. Well done, Melissa. Adri, I'm going to start with you. So she mentioned this Welsh slate story that started somewhere near Dorothea. Is that holding? Is it true in your mind, or is her story missing a heart?
Well, what I picked up on was that she said Dorothea translated to God's gift of the valley. And my whole life, I've been under the impression that it was Adriana. So I'm ready to point fingers and make accusations, but I might just hold off for now.
Okay. Need more information. Darren, what'd you think of Melissa's opening round?
I mean, I'm wondering if she's going the route of the classic comedy bit, The Four Yorkshiremen. They're like, on my day, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to sleep to get to work at 4 o'clock in the morning the previous day.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we have heard our first story from Darren, our first round story from Melissa, and that leaves Adri. So Adri, I'm going to come to you. You're going to take the main square. And when you see the sundial and you hear the boom, you have 75 seconds.
Oh, first we've got our comment from the audience, though.
We do indeed.
Apparently, as
a native speaker, you did a good job on that. Well
Thank
done.
Thank you.
Wait. I think that was for Melissa.
That was for Melissa. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Settle down, Darren, and taking those. Okay, so we're going to get Adri up onto the board here. And all right, Adri, here comes your round.
In 1943, Hitler's army was fighting the Eastern Front of Russia, and they were finally starting to show cracks. So to coordinate a strategy essential to turning the tide of the war, Stalin wanted to meet with our president, FDR, and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill in their first ever face-to-face meeting. At the time, the Soviets were basically getting the worst of the Nazi war. And so he was like super eager to get this meeting to go. He recommended the three of them meeting in Tehran. Now, at the beginning of the war, Tehran was under German control, but at this point, which was 1943, it was under Russian and British control. So that's where they chose to meet. Unfortunately, that did not stay a secret, and the Germans found out about it. Now, since it was a German occupied city for a while, there were still a lot of like German loyalists there. And the night before the meeting, a bunch of like paratroopers were sent in and they landed there. A lot of them got caught, but 6 were still on the loose 24 hours before the meeting was supposed to happen. In section 2, I'm going to tell you the rest. Well,
all right. World War II coming into play here. So I'm going to start with Darren. Darren, what did you think of Adri's first round story?
I'm just kind of waiting to see if Indiana Jones shows up and punches any of these Nazis, because I mean that'd be great.
That'd be great. That'd be exciting.
It would also be copyright infringement, so we won't go there.
True.
But
we can't.
We won't show it. We're going to tell you about it. We won't show it. Melissa, what did you think of Adri's story?
Yeah, I'm with Darren here in that it sounds pretty like theatrical. So it remind kind of like what you said, Indiana Jones feels right at home. And also you have people on the run. Makes me wonder if you're on the run for, telling not a truth.
Okay. All right.
We call those bluffs in the industry. We call those
trying to run from the truth. Okay. Adam, if you look above my head, you can see the first round.
Holy smokes.
The round track is full. That only means one thing. Time to go to round 2.
Let's do it, Chris. We're going to round number 2. And that was the word from our sponsors.
That was. Thank you very much. Yes, we're back.
We have no sponsors. If anyone wants to sponsor
break.
us, yeah.
Indeed. We are open to taking sponsors. We will take phone calls. We will do work for you. It's all good. So we're going to go to round number 2. I'm going to bring Darren back up. Darren, now, as you remember, this is the second round, so our the time allotment is shrunk down to 60 seconds each. So Melissa made the comment about somebody being on the run. You ended your first round story with John Locke on the run.
He was on the run, yes.
On the run. So let's pick it up with you taking off on round number 2. Pick up your story, and you have 60 seconds, and the clock is yours.
Okay. So the Rye House plot of 1683 was a plan to assassinate King Charles II of England and his brother and heir to the throne, the Duke of York, James II. John Locke was suspected of involvement, and so he fled for his life to Amsterdam, where he lived in exile until the Glorious Revolution in 1689, in which James II was deposed and replaced by Mary II and her husband, William of Orange, in a bloodless coup. It was during these years in exile that John Locke wrote his essay concerning human understanding, in which Locke refuted the theory of the divine right of kings and argued that all persons are endowed with inalienable God-given natural rights to life, liberty, and property, and that rulers who fail to protect those rights may be removed by the people by force if necessary. Sound familiar? He also wrote that only adult male property owners should have the right to vote.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I had applause queued up for that line. Oh, that ain't right.
You were played, Adam. So Melissa, what did you think of round number 2, the continuation of the John Locke story?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot going on in round 2. A lot of action happened here. Definitely like the peak of the action. We have new people. William of Orange is now at play. I think the last line, I was like, I don't know. This guy is on the run and still was kind of thinking that only men were able to vote. So I don't know. It loses points. Maybe it's true, but maybe it loses points. The person, John Locke, in my book.
Okay, I could see that. Adri, what's your take?
Very believable. Our Constitution being inspired by a man who thought only men could own property and vote. Sounds about right. Sounds about 2023 ish.
Yeah. Very Texas.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what happens in round 3, but it really sounds like I'm really leaning towards Darren. It sounds like he really took a lot of things from history and just shoved it into one story. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, yeah, that's by the way, that's the sister to the Round Tracker 9000 is the History Blender 9000, where you do that and it just all kind of comes up together.
We're working on that one.
We're working on that one. Yes, we are working on that. So we're going to bring Melissa now to the main square, and Melissa, you once again have 60 seconds in this truncated round number 2, and the floor is yours.
All right, so the workers at this quarry are not happy. So in efforts to basically boost morale, Davies instituted the Gwel Gelf, which is a festival that was dedicated to Welsh sports. So there were things like this ball game that is kind of like American football. There's tug of war, there was foot races, and an annual sports festival. And the main tradition was Welsh wrestling. And traditional Welsh wrestling is still alive and well today. It's a lot of grappling practices, and this was by far the most popular parts of the festival. The winners were honored by having their names transcribed onto actual slate that was displayed in the center of the town. One unintended effect, though, of the festival was the fact that because it was wrestling, the workers were often physically hurt or exhausted, and production actually decreased in the quarry in the weeks following the festival. Find out what happens next in part 3.
Okay. All right, Adri, unintended injuries delayed production in the quarry. Did unintended facts delay your believability of Melissa's story?
No.
No, not at all. It was actually really fun to listen to. There was so much going on, like not happy workers, workers who need workers' comp, the Goal Gelf. That was an interesting name. Welsh sports. The only Welsh sport I've ever heard of is golf. So I don't know. I feel like there might be some hidden bluffs sprinkled in there.
Okay.
But yeah, those are my opinions at the moment.
All right. Very good. Very good. Darren, what say you?
I thought the national sport of Wales was drinking, and so I was surprised that wasn't included in the list. Which would also, though, that would account for decreased productivity, though maybe not for weeks afterwards.
And here I thought it was hunting vowels.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Welsh. Very quiet. I'm hunting.
If you've ever seen any, well said, Darren. All right, Adam. If you look above me with the round tracker, you can see that 2 of the 3 dots should be filled in, and indeed they are. So that means that we're going to bring Adri back out to the main square, and Adri, you're going to have 60 seconds in this round to continue your story, and the floor is yours.
So enter Mike Riley, head of FDR Secret Service Detail. 24 hours before they get to Tehran, he's told by the Soviets, hey, we think someone's going to try to kill the big 3, which were Churchill, Stalin, and FDR. So they knew that Churchill was safely in the British embassy. That's fine. And then Stalin had his embassy, which was out in the desert. So what they did was they kind of did a distraction where they put FDR in like a really crappy car and drove him to the embassy going this way. And then they put an actor in the limo or whatever car they took back in the day. And that one went this way. And so it was a distraction. FDR arrived at the Soviet embassy fine. He stayed there. But then afterwards, they discovered that the Soviets had bugged FDR's hotel room because it was in his embassy. They found mics everywhere, in the carpet, in the walls, in the pillows, in the pictures, everything. So in round 3, I'm going to wrap it all up.
Finding mics everywhere. All right. Melissa, what did you think of that story from Adri?
Yeah, when you mentioned the car, I think that really got my wheels turning a little bit. And yeah, I earned that one. But anyways, the car, it was like, okay, now we're having a car chase scene. It really is kind of a movie. And so I'm wondering how much she ripped from the big screen here.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Darren, what do you think of Adri's story?
Well, this is 1943, and I'm kind of picturing that mics are like as big as the one sitting in front of your face right now. And so they're like, wow, why is this pillow so lumpy? I don't know. It's Tehran. Don't worry about it.
Never you mind. Never you
What's
mind.
the cable coming out of the pillow? I don't know. Don't worry about it.
It's for power. It's for power. All right. So
we've got some comments from the internet, Chris.
Oh, we do indeed. Oh, let's see here.
Let's see.
Mike Riley. No, I'm sorry. That's not a real name. No one has that name. Well, the voice of Francis. I will dispute that. We always welcome comments from the audience, but
we do.
I do know of a Mike named Riley. So.
And Riley was Nicolas Cage's sidekick in all of the National Treasure movies, so do not disparage him.
Ooh, this is very topical too. And also, we got to reach back a little bit. Dogsy does point out that football or rugby might be the sport. Yeah, when we were talking about the Welsh national sport, it may not be hunting vowels after all. So I stand corrected. I'm wrong. Right. Sometimes I'm wrong.
But I will say, if you have seen signs in the Welsh Gaelic. There's hardly any vowels at all. It's really impressive to see.
They're looking for them.
Yeah. And it also makes you, as you walk around, it makes you want to make sure that you have CPR down pat, because it sounds like everyone's choking when they speak.
No.
Well, on that note, we're going to move to round number 3, Adam, because the Round Tracker 9000 is all filled up.
It is filled up. Let's go to round number 3, the final round. Look at this.
I will, before we jump in, I will say this. Our friend, the voice of Francis, says, I stand corrected. I'm learning so much from the show. Thank you for that. And also,
that's why we're here.
That's why we're here, to help learn. Learn things. But also, feel free. You comment away, and I made a mocking comment about the Mike Riley comment of yours. So, I apologize for that. We encourage the comments to come in from the audience. And
that's right. Bring them in.
Bring them in.
We're here to play.
We are in round number 3. We are here to play, and but we have a shorter time to do it in round number 3. The round has once again been truncated. The time allotted is down to now 45 seconds. So this is the concluding round. So at the end of this round, the end of this round, we're going to come back one more time, hear people's theories of who could be the bluff and who we think might be telling the truth. But to begin this, let's start back with Darren. Round number 3, 45 seconds. Right. The clock is yours.
Okay, let's do it.
So exactly how much did John Locke influence Jefferson in the writing of the Declaration of Independence? Remember the glorious revolution that I mentioned that was about 100 years before the American Revolution? Here's what Locke wrote. But if a long train of abuses, prevarications, and artifices, all tending the same way, make the design visible to the people, and they cannot but feel what they lie under, and see whither they are going, it is not to be wondered that they should then rouse themselves. And what did Jefferson write in the Declaration of Independence? But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, presumably invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government.
Oh, there you go.
Sound familiar?
Wow. So almost an accusation of plagiarism by Darren there.
Oh, no.
America founded on plagiarism?
Nonsense.
Well, they did say that plagiarism is the greatest, the most sincerest form of flattery.
Wait,
Melissa, we'll go to you. What do you think of Darren's story before I say anything else that's wrong?
Yeah, I like the strategy of just straight up reading the Declaration of Independence for the last part. And what makes me wonder, just saying that the last part's throw off such governments, if that was a tactic to throw off such historians.
Yes, that's why Jefferson wrote those words for this day.
Finally, his plan has come full circle.
All right, AG, what did you think? Are you on board with Melissa's conspiracy theory that this is all geared toward tonight, or what do you think?
I'm on board for everything, but mostly I'm upset that my whole life I was told never to plagiarize, and I didn't, and now I know I could have, And also, benefit of this show, you can learn at an early age that you can plagiarize and become president of the United States. So,
yeah, there you go.
I mean, you can literally do anything.
You can found a nation on plagiarism.
Yeah, found it. Yeah.
All right, something else learned tonight. Very nice. We're having so much history being learned tonight.
Really?
So many new things being learned tonight besides history. All right, so we have heard Darren's third round, concluding round. That brings us to Melissa. I'm going to bring you out to the main square. Melissa, you have 45 seconds to conclude your story of the Welsh quarry workers and unintended injuries.
All right, so at some point, 1851, this was causing so many delays that they basically put in rules with the festival that there was a cap on how many locals could actually compete in these games. And other people were brought in from rival quarries or other villages that were nearby. And over the years, the quarry changed hands, and the festival still stayed the same because it was so popular. And the quarry actually closed in the 1970s and is now a famous site for scuba diving. But the festival is still a big deal. In fact, you can still enter it. And there's a rumor that the famous wrestler Davey Boy Smith, a.k.a. the British Bulldog from the 80s and 90s WWE, was on that slate in the middle of town.
Wow. All right, the British Bulldog. Adri, what did you think of Melissa's conclusion there?
Very interesting. Just wondering why The Rock didn't come from the query.
Oh. Well done. Well done. Good question. Darren, what did you think, Darren, of Melissa's story there?
What did I think of it? Well, I'm still reeling from that rock pun.
So am I. That's just great.
I'm in rock shock.
Rock shock. All right. So we'll just go right to the person who put everyone in a stunned position. Adri, we're going to bring you out, and you have 45 seconds to give us your conclusion of this story.
When the Nazi agents were rounded up the same day, a spy sent a message back to Berlin saying the plot had been foiled. Maybe the assassins were ordered to stand down. Who knows? Or maybe the Soviets made it the entire story up in order to get FDR in their embassy so that they can bug him. Either way, the summit went down, and at the end of it, Churchill finally said, "You're right, I'm in. Normandy is going to happen." And we all know that the English in the United States invaded Europe and changed the entire course of history. When Roosevelt returned home from Iran, he told reporters, "I got word from Marshal Stalin. They had word of a German plot." So Roosevelt didn't really even know if it really happened or not, but in the end, Roosevelt was bugged.
All right. Darren, did you believe Adri's concluding round there, or do you think she ran so far away from the truth?
Oh, no. Wow.
I was going to say, but it was a long time before Roosevelt uttered the words Iran, considering he suffered from polio.
That's worse. God. That's worse than mine. Yeah, you buzz indeed.
It's true.
Do you have any other comments that are less offensive, Darren?
No, only more offensive.
Okay.
I'm just going to play them out. I'm playing them out. Thank you, Darren. That was really nice. We appreciate it. Thank you for your contributions. That's great.
We're gonna Melissa, save us. What do you think of Adrian's story?
So the last that got us all riled up with the name Mike Riley. But this one had also a lot of other plots, a lot of action. And I'm wondering if you're feeling a little like antsy about it because of all the bugs, you know.
Oh man, see, there it is.
Cute. That was
good.
Cute.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, listen to this on your bugs, if you will. We are at the conclusion of round number 3, which means now there's only one thing left to do, and that is to get another round of comments from our panelists to cue our audience if they want to make some accusations right now of who they think is bluffing, and then we will figure it out. And then I'm going to hand things off to Adam, and he's going to tell us who is tonight's bluff. So let's see. I'm going to just run right down the line. Darren, tell us, who do you think is bluffing?
Well, I consulted my friend Riley from National Treasure.
Oh.
And I'm friends with him. I chatted during the break. And he seems to remember that Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill did not meet in Tehran. They met somewhere else in Yalta. And so I'm calling BS on Adri.
Oh, we have an accusation of a bluff for on Adri, against Adri. All right, Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I would say my story is pretty rock solid. I think that, I think Darren has a lot of things that seem right about his story, especially with the quotes are impressive. So I'm also going to agree that Adri's the bluff here.
All right, we have now a second accusation of Adri is the bluff. And before I go to Adri, we do have one coming in from the audience, and that is, as much as I would like it to be blank, I can't shake Mike Riley, so I presume that means that the voice of Francis is accusing Melissa of being a bluff. But Adri, what do you think?
Well, it really bugs me that I've been accused twice today. Mm-hmm. So on that note, I will like to split my accusation between the two.
Wait,
I
gotta check the rule book. I don't think you can do that. Okay, it'll throw the game off.
Okay, so Darren, I feel like, is going Taylor Swift with his blank space. So I'm gonna vote for Darren.
All right.
On that alone.
Wow. All right. Fantastic.
Fine.
All right. Well, that means that we have 2 bluff accusations against Adri, 1 bluff accusation against Darren, and none against Melissa. So, Melissa, if you are tonight's bluff, that means that you have won the show. Although you had kind of the audience member, the voice of Francis, seems like leaning towards the bluff accusation against you, but never really said it. Not yet. So once again, for the audience members, if you think you know who's bluffing, throw it in the comments and we'll calculate those. But with no further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Adam. And Adam, let's find out.
Okay, it's that time of the show that we've all been waiting for. We're going to get our suspects lined up, and I'm going to reveal now. Was your bluff for this show, was it Darren? Was your bluff Melissa? Or was your bluff Adri? Brace yourselves, for I shall now reveal the bluff this whole time. It was Melissa. Oh, you fooled everyone. You got away scot-free.
Not quite everyone, because voice of Anthony did come in with an accusation, and we have it right here. I'll show it up. He said Melissa. There you go.
Done.
We had one here of I abstain to give Melissa a chance, seeing it's my job to know this stuff. Okay, and then we had, of course, the voice of Francis being very humble and throwing it back in the face of Mike Riley, it was close though. So very nice.
I
love those comments. Thank you so much.
Thanks for participating, audience members.
Indeed, for
we love you.
And then, we have another one right here. The British Bulldog triumphs always.
Yes, it does.
Words that resonate indeed. Thank you, Adam Wynn, for that comment. All right. So, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. With a super fun show tonight. Appreciate all of you for joining us live on the show. And those of you that are listening later on in the podcast, thank you for tuning into our podcast channel. Adam, would you tell the audience where else they could view us?
Oh, absolutely. Every week we broadcast live on Twitch and YouTube, and we're lurking on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you tune into our podcast later on, you can get us everywhere your podcasts are.
That's right.
On that note, it's been a great show, everybody. Thank you, Chris, for hosting, and thank you, our historians, for doing your research, and Melissa for pulling the wool over our eyes. We'll see you again next week. Take care.